All right. A very good evening to all of you who are joining in. Thank you for joining in for this LinkedIn Live series that we have been doing over the last few weeks. My name's Arindam. In case you haven't kind of remembered my name, I'm the co founder of NextLeap. And today we have two amazing people who we are going to be chatting with. We have Annwesha, who is right now at Navi in the product team, and we also have Rohit, who joined the Cars 24 team in the product team of theirs. So we'll be talking with both of them and understanding what's the kind of journey that they went through, and hopefully they'll be sharing a lot of gems for all of you who are trying to break into product. Here, a lot of people I've been meeting up and talking to over the last few weeks, they have all expressed the desire to break into product. And this LinkedIn Live series is all about spreading awareness about the role, how you can prepare better for getting into this role. So we'll be hearing a lot about that from both of them. Welcome to this session, Anwesha and Rohit. Thank you so much for doing this. How are both of you doing?
Thank you so much for having us, Arindam. Great to be here.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I'm very, very excited for this opportunity.
same here. Yeah,
Yeah, always a pleasure talking to you guys. And so let me kind of quickly start off by having both of you introduce yourself, what your background has been, and talking about what really excited you to get into product and choosing that as a career option. Anvesha, we'll start off with you. Why don't you talk a bit about your journey so far, and then we'll go over to Rohit.
Sure, sure. So, basically, a little bit about myself. I'm a 2022 graduate from BITS Pilani Goa campus,
Hmm.
and product happened in a very interesting way for me because I was very excited to go into core electronics, and then I ventured a little bit into consulting roles. And
Okay.
through a lot of product case competition and business case competitions, I realized
Yeah.
that my strengths lie in doing a lot of things simultaneously. Like I like to do data analytics, I like to do a little bit of
Mm.
communicating with teams and stakeholder management and stuff. And I talked to a lot of my seniors, and they told that product might be a good fit for me. So that's
Mm.
how I got introduced to the product role. So
Okay.
currently I'm working in Navi at their personal loan collections team in
Right.
product. So, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to be here, and I'm really, really excited to talk to you guys.
Fantastic. No, thanks so much for sharing that journey. So you talked about being a generalist and obviously kind of product managers. We know that kind of are the generalists out there with maybe some levels of specialization. So we'll get
Yeah.
to that. Rohit, what your journey has been, talk us through that.
sure. So thanks, Arindam, first of all, for inviting me. So, a bit about myself. I am a 2022 graduate from IIT Kharagpur, and I am currently an APM at Cars 24. So, just like Anvesha, my journey is also like sort of similar. So, my course was dual degree course. So, I got to do around 5 internships during my college life,
Oh,
and
wow.
almost all of them are in different fields. Like one was in sort of a marketing sort of a role, the other
Mm.
was in data analytics, one was more of an analyst type of a role, one was in machine learning, and
Mm.
I've done like a couple of case study comments along the way. So I figure
Mm.
out that I'm not like great at all of these things, but I'm like good enough at all of these things. So
Mm.
like what is the role that can like will help me, like like I don't need to be the best person in everything, but being good enough works there.
Okay.
So
Okay.
so like I found that product is where somewhere where you don't have to be like a PhD in one specific thing, but you need to be
Okay.
like an 80% percentile person in that.
Okay.
So product was a field that actually was fitting that at least.
Yeah.
So that was the reason that product motivated me. I wanted to join product, and apart from
Yeah.
that, product also throws challenges to you on a daily basis. And I
Right.
am someone who don't doesn't like that monotonous sort of a job. So
Mm.
while I did, but during my internship, I figured out that I'm not someone who like can run a code and sit for 6 hours waiting for it to run.
Mm.
So I
Okay.
want like sort of a role where I do something and I see the impact immediately. Something
Mm.
happens and I work on that again. That cycle has to happen. So product is
Got
something
it.
where everything is cyclical. It works in sprints. Like you
Yeah.
deploy a feature, then it like like you work on that, you improve on that.
Yeah.
So since that was what core product is all about, that also excited me.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that is basically why I wanted to get into product, and like yeah, I mean that's all.
All right. No, amazing. I think so. Both of you kind of being the jack of all trades, as we say, and getting into a generalist role that is product. So, how has the role treated you so far? It's been a few months already that you've been in a product manager's shoes. How has the role treated you? Any surprises? Anything that was not as per expectations? Things which you expected and turned out to be l- as expected? Or anything
Yeah.
that you did not expect. So, Anwesha, why don't you get us started on that?
Right. So obviously, when you're solving cases, there are no constraints, right?
Mm.
Like there are no constraints of cost,
Yeah,
resources, feasibility.
yeah,
But that is very different when you're actually solving problems
yeah,
at a company. There will be constraints, some hard constraints, in fact.
yeah.
So working through that, navigating through that, that was a very big curveball for me. I was not
Mm.
expecting that at all.
Mm.
Having said that, the problem solving aspect of product is still
Yeah.
there. Like I do get to utilize some of my frameworks that I had learned way back while
Mm.
actually figuring out the problems and solutioning them. So
Okay.
yes, although the methodology or the iterative processes have increased,
Yeah.
the high level view is still the same.
Mm.
So uh, that's it. Like I still enjoy product a lot because it's
Yeah.
still so dynamic and so
Yeah.
cross functional.
Yeah.
But having said that, you need to it's not a very linear process.
Right.
It's very iterative, it's
Yeah.
very experiment driven.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is something I was not expecting, but yeah, that is what I have to
Got it.
experience.
Got it. Yeah, no, I think that's very well put. And that indeed is true because when you are sitting in your home and doing all those uh, case breakdowns and all of that, it
Yeah.
seems
Yeah.
like, oh, like it's so very easy. I can
Right.
Yeah.
just take a structured approach and do it. But in the real world,
Right.
there's so many of those nuances, so many of those complexities that you need to navigate and work through, without which it becomes very, very hard. Rohit, what about you?
Yeah, so for me, couple of things. So what I work on is not what the customer sees on his app, right? So
Right,
I work on something basically. My work is related to logistics, so
right,
that does not actually translate to what they see on the app.
right.
But then I figured out that there are two types of products in general. One is
Mm,
internal, one is external. So
yeah,
and both are equally important for the company to exist.
right.
So if someone says that working on the front end is that's all you need for a company to run, that is what
Yeah,
not what how it works. You need
yeah,
to build products for the people who work inside the company, who are actually
yeah,
the backbone of the whole process, to make
yeah,
sure that the company makes revenue and things work in a smooth flow.
yeah,
So that was a big revelation for me because I thought that all I need to do was work on an app, build more features, like create a
right.
WhatsApp CTA, and that's all
Yeah,
I have to do. But I figured out that that won't get you like business. So
yeah,
that was a big revelation for me. And like I
yeah,
talked to a lot of seniors in my company, and they
yeah,
also told me that that's obviously an aspect of the job, the design part, the UI UX part, but the
yeah,
main part, the core the problem solving element does not change
right,
even though you're working on different products, but it's exactly the same way how you think the doing the RCS, it's all the same.
right.
That was the first thing. And the second is that product is glamorous in a sense that you get a lot of ownership,
Mm,
but with ownership comes responsibility, and when things don't work, it falls back on you.
yeah.
So I got this root shock very, very early in my company. Like when
Mm,
things don't work and let's say release fails. So
yeah,
like people will be like, and it's not just one team because you were
yeah,
very happy initially that you could get to work with three different types of teams: tech, business, and design. If
right.
things don't work, all these three
Yeah,
will come back to you and tell you काम क्यों नहीं कर रहा है. So so that is
right.
a very important thing to understand that if you are
Yeah,
expecting ownership, you need to expect like backlash as well.
yeah,
So I was not at least I didn't think that that would be the case, but like
yeah,
it's a very I won't say pressure, but it's a high ownership job with that comes a lot of responsibility.
yeah,
So
yeah.
like
No,
a couple of myths from my end. Yeah.
yeah, no, absolutely. I think thanks so much for calling that out because a lot of people who are trying to explore product as a career, uh, they really think that it's all about building features and new
Yeah,
kind of
exactly.
shiny stuff, right? And what I tell them is it's not about that. Many times, you also need to think about removing features just to make the user's life simpler. That's one.
Yeah.
Right.
The second thing is it's not always going to be consumer facing, as you are realizing that, Rohit. A lot of times you're building for your internal stakeholders also, right? A lot of tools or a lot of products that you're building has to be that, and that's not perhaps as glamorous, but throughout all of these things, you have to have the exact kind of or the same product mindset, as we call it. That
Right.
approach towards building products does not change regardless of
Right.
kind of whether it's consumer facing or operations facing or some other facing roles. But thanks so much for calling that out. So, what are the exciting parts about this role, Anwesha? What is it that you are really enjoying about this role?
Actually, there are a lot of things, to be very
Hmm.
honest.
Okay.
First of all, the fact that no day is the same as the previous one.
Mm, mm,
I always wanted a life where no day will be similar, because as Rohit mentioned, he gets bored
yeah,
with the same work over and over again, and I'm a
yeah,
similar sort of a person. I
yeah,
hate monotony.
yeah,
Uh, which is why even in childhood I used to quit things very easily, because I was like, I'm bored of it. So I'm glad that my job is not like that.
right,
Uh, the second thing is that the people I work with are great. So
mm,
I think that is something in general I've noticed in the product community itself. They're smart
yeah,
people, people with great insights. You
yeah,
talk to them, and they have such uh, amazing opinions and such amazing ideas. Like, we can
yeah,
form a startup just by talking. It's
yeah,
like that. So the
yeah,
people I work with are great.
mm,
And I think the third thing is that ownership. I really enjoy that. Like, I
yeah,
own end to end, like from problem identification to actually shipping the solution, and even
yeah,
after that, monitoring and reporting what impact that the solution had. So
yeah,
everything end to end, I own it, and of course, it leads to responsibility as well. But it's
yeah,
also really fun when you see uh, success. The metrics moving and the
yeah,
uh, NPS coming in. So that's
yeah,
great. So I think these three
yeah.
things.
Absolutely. No, and maybe one thing which I would add based on my own kind of career as well. I think because it's so very cross-functional, because you're owning end to end, because you're working
Yeah,
with such a smart set of people, the uh, the kind of learning that happens is phenomenal, right?
Yeah.
Because
agreed,
Exactly.
agreed.
every single day you're learning something new, because you're
Right,
working with so many different kinds of people across so many different functions,
agreed.
and true to the nature of a generalist there, you'll be learning about marketing, you'll be learning about sales, you'll be learning about engineering, design. So, and that really keeps
Yeah.
you going. At least for me, I think that was one of the standouts, because every single day I would be learning something new, which was
Right.
amazing. So, Rohit, what about you?
For me, like the biggest, plus, or let's say the satisfaction where I get is when the user tells you that he really had an amazing time using my feature.
Hmm.
So that can be, for me, it's my internal stakeholder. So when
Yeah,
I send out a release note saying that I have made so and so, like please
yeah,
let me know your feedback, and they
yeah,
revert back saying that this has made our life 10 times easier.
right,
So there is no
yeah,
bigger joy than that for me, at least.
yeah,
That makes my day, at least, when someone tells me that.
yeah,
Apart from that, of course, it's the people. I mean, like amazing people in the company. You can
yeah,
talk to them anytime you want, and
yeah,
the people, the type of thoughts they have and the type of insights they give is
yeah,
something that I don't think any other field probably will give.
yeah,
So that is definitely one of the pluses.
yeah.
And yeah, I mean, these two, I would say, are the biggest pluses for working in product.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Just switching gears a bit, both of you guys have joined, I would say, a startup, right? Maybe mature
Yeah,
stage startup.
yeah,
Navi is kind of, I don't know how to kind of really classify it, whether I should say early stage based on the duration it has been, or the fact that it is already, or talks are about it getting ready for an IPO, whether I should say it's a completely mature company, but I'd still classify it as a startup. And similarly, kind of Cars 24 also, I think it's been around for close to a decade now, but I've seen
yeah.
that journey from close quarters, and I would still say it's a mature startup. There, obviously, unicorn. How has it been working in these fast-paced environments? What are the good things? What are the not so good things? because you've chosen to join a fast growth startup here, Anwesha?
Right. I think one of the key learnings that I've taken from working at Navi is that
Yeah.
we believe a lot in experimentation.
Right.
Like we don't keep anything to assumption.
Mm.
Even something as small as say the color or the font,
Yeah. Yeah.
we'll experiment with that also. Even sending out a communication to customer, we'll
Yeah.
experiment with that as well.
Yeah.
Uh, so this is a very interesting learning for me
Yeah.
that let's keep your bias aside and
Yeah.
test everything before you
Right.
actually ship it out.
Yeah.
Uh, and plus, since it's so fast paced, it's sometimes not going to lie, it sometimes becomes
Mm.
hectic also
Mm.
because there are multiple projects running simultaneously, and
Right.
being in product, you're owning up a lot of things, so you need to keep track of each and everything. You need to go and ask the designer whether the designs are ready. You need to
Mm.
check on the developer and see what is the
Yeah.
ETA on certain thing.
Yeah.
So it's sometimes hard to keep track of that. So I have started making a to-do list. So it's a good thing, I guess.
Right.
Uh, and plus, I think the third thing would be uh, it's okay to make mistakes. I
Right.
feel people are very forgiving in my
Yeah.
company. In fact, once in one of the bi-weekly sessions that we have with Sachin
Yeah.
Bansal,
Yeah.
he mentioned that it's better to ask for do something and ask for apology rather than ask
Yeah.
for permission.
Yep.
So mistakes are forgiven very easily
Yeah.
at Navi, and that is great because you tend to experiment a lot. You tend
Right.
to build great products by making
Yeah.
mistakes. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think these three things.
Very, very well put. And obviously, having worked with Sachin for a bit back at Flipkart, I can
Yeah,
totally envy you as well. I would say, working with someone like him, I would say amazing learnings
absolutely,
coming just from him by that, right? So, uh,
absolutely.
thanks so much for sharing that, Rohit. What about your experience at Cars 24?
Yeah, so basically, I'm just very excited by the scope of work that can be done in whatever I'm
Mm,
doing. So, like
mm,
the number of projects and the different type of projects that are in the pipeline, like
mm.
that is not something that I would get in a very mature start company because
Right,
already those things might have been done.
right.
Because I am in a vertical where we are still the team is very young, we are starting
Mm,
out. So
mm.
the amount of work to be done to reach at a mature stage is still far off. So
Right.
for me, everything is like we are like chasing a lot of things, and I feel that we are doing in the right direction and we are moving very
Mm,
fast. And
mm.
also, just like Anmisha said, like failing fast is a thing that is like very accepted in the company.
Right.
Even though right now we have basically since every company is moving like towards a cost cutting sort of a every company wants to ensure that the costs are minimized. So
Yeah.
working in that environment also is something that you would get in a fast paced startup, because like that
Yeah.
would mean that you have to look at everything and be optimized and not just build
Yeah.
features just for the sake of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean basically that is the reason why fast paced startups are like good to work in.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Even if I look back at my own journey as well, I joined Flipkart back in the day when it was pretty small, and we are
Yeah,
just
Yeah,
starting to hit that hockey stick growth. And one of the things which I really enjoyed, in that kind of an environment where obviously, as both of you also pointed out, there's a lot of ownership,
yeah,
which means the impact that you can drive is also significant. And when you see that impact really in front of your eyes, and you know that okay, you've played a role in that in driving that impact, that really drives up the adrenaline, right? Because you can
right, right.
really resonate with that success, and you really kind of soak in all of that adulation as well, which is amazing. And Yeah, I think that's the benefit of working in these fast growth startups as well. It comes with a lot of those risks, and as you said, like it
yeah,
becomes hectic.
Yeah,
Those are sometimes the downsides of it. But early in your career, perhaps I think you would
yeah,
optimize for the learning. So keeping
definitely.
that in mind, I think that really helps a lot. Great. So let's switch gears a bit and talk a bit about what you have seen as the core skills required in a product manager's role. Given that you've been in a product role for a few months already, what are the core skills that you have seen are required to excel in this role? Rohit, we'll start off with you this time.
Sure. Contrary to what we have learned when we were like studying as a
Yeah,
part of the NextLeap course, the
yeah,
theory aspect would only be around, let's say, 10 to 20%.
right.
So, like, most of it is stakeholder management and like
Yeah,
how you interact with your developers or with your
yeah,
designers or with,
yeah,
let's say, the business team,
yeah.
and managing expectations and basically to understand people and communicate your proposition very well. That
Mm,
is one of the
mm,
Yeah.
most important skills that a PM
yeah,
should have. Apart from that, I believe that especially when there are crises happening, let's say in your future,
yeah,
so it's
yeah,
very important to like keep your calm and like not lose your cool. That
right.
is temperament is very important when you're like you want to
Yeah,
become a good PM.
yeah.
And apart from that, I would say like doing RCAs very well. So by
Mm,
that time, in that if anything, any feature there is an issue, you have to do an RCA every time. So
yeah.
in at least in my case, I am doing an RCA on a daily basis to understand where things go wrong. So
Mm,
doing root cause analysis by like bifurcating problems very well is a very important skill that like a PM needs.
got
And
it.
apart from that, of course, you need to have the zeal for learning because you'll be tasked with things that you probably won't even know about. But
Yeah,
since you're a PM, to do it anyways. So
yeah,
if you don't have that in you to like actually curiosity to learn stuff, that will
yeah.
be a hindrance. So having a zeal to learn is very important when you're becoming a PM. So I think
Got it.
these are the most important things I feel.
Okay, Anwesha.
Yeah. Adding to whatever Rohit said, I think for me, the first and foremost thing, one of the core skills that a PM should have is uh, understanding and understanding data. I think
Yeah,
a lot of times we undermine the usage or the potential that data can give you.
yeah,
Uh, I think a lot of people are afraid of that also.
right.
And even I
Yeah.
was. And it can cause to analysis paralysis also
Yeah,
eventually.
yeah,
But I think one of my managers, he suggested that first half an hour of the day, you come to work and open all
yeah,
of the dashboards and analyze all of the data.
yeah,
So
yeah,
I think it's one of the biggest learnings that I've had. So
right.
reading data and understanding data is a core skill.
Yeah,
And I think the second thing would be, I think when we are, learning how to solve cases and doing case breakdowns, we
yeah,
focus a lot on problem solving.
right.
But I think when you're actually at your job, the key skill will come for problem identification.
I mean,
And I
yes.
think
Yeah,
that is harder.
Yeah.
yeah,
Uh, you need to find the right kind of problems. You need
yeah,
to scope them out and see whether they are even worth solving or not. And
yep,
the solution can happen. Like
yep,
solution takes lesser time than actually problem
yep,
identification.
yep.
So I think these two things would be
Music to
primary.
my ears, actually. Like whatever we taught you guys, I think now you guys are repeating the same thing. So fantastic to share that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think as you said, data, obviously data becomes your best friend. I would say in a product manager's role, because
Definitely.
it starts giving you insights. If you are able to analyze
Yeah.
the data really well, find patterns from the data,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
otherwise it will not kind of help you, and those insights lead you to identifying opportunity areas or certain problems, which helps kind of feed into your roadmaps that you're building, and that's the
Right.
cycle that would continue. And similarly, the softer skills also that Rohit mentioned, a lot of it is around stakeholder management, a lot of effective communication skills. All of those matter a lot in your day-to-day work, because at the end of the day, you're working with so many different uh, people from so many different functions. It's amazing. um, I'm glad that both of you never talked about the tech skills now, and that's a question which I would ask
Okay.
you, because like for example, Monica has put down a question. Does this make a difference getting into a product role if one does not have an engineering or a technical background? And I think when you guys were also getting into NextLeap, I'm sure you also had that question on your mind. So, what is the truth here? Does it matter
Okay. So
having an engineering background or a technical knowledge, or does it not?
sure. So I'll go first if that's okay.
Yeah, yeah,
So I was someone who hated like to do like coding basically when I was in college because I
yeah,
tried multiple times and I failed. So
yeah,
I had a specific hatred towards like looking at code and trying to debug and stuff.
yeah,
But once I got into my role, I figured out that like having an aversion to tech will obviously not help.
Right.
But what will definitely help is like you need to be okay with understanding a bit of tech. I'm not saying that you need to
Right.
know the whole part of coding, but
Yeah.
at least knowing basics where you can communicate to your tech well. So let's say if your tech team tells that there is a feature I want to build, to tell the tech team, and they
Right.
tell you, okay, what exactly do you need to do here? So
Yeah.
you need to be able to tell them that there is this thing we need to build this A B C D.
Yeah.
That's the maximum tech you need. You
Yeah.
don't need to understand how do you build that on code, but
Yeah.
having an upper level of knowledge actually helps in making your life easier. If you
Right.
don't know how to know that technical knowledge, that will make your life difficult in communicating to the
Right.
tech stakeholders.
Right.
So that is the only
And what
bit of
level
tech
of
that you actually
technical
know.
knowledge is required?
That actually depends on how your role is, to be honest. So,
Yeah.
like when you're, let's say, getting into a role where the technical aspect is less,
Yeah.
so you'll need less. So, let's say you need to know what an API is, or like what is a get API, what is a
Yeah.
post API, and all those
Yeah.
basic understanding of definitions. That is all that is required. I
Yeah.
won't say that you need to get into a post API and understand that how that the API hits and how many what
Right.
the whole back end of it. That's not required. But
Right.
understanding basic definitions of tech and actually having a curiosity to learn. Let's say the tech team comes to you and tells you one day that there is a feature and we need to work on something, and you need to
Yeah.
learn, let's say, 10% more than what you know. Then to
Yeah.
have the curiosity and the patience to go back and read about it, that is all that's required, even if you don't have a
Yeah.
tech degree.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Anwesha.
I think tech, the knowledge of tech in general is a great skill to have for any PM. And
Right.
I think it's necessary also if you want to
Yeah.
excel in your job. You
Yeah.
can easily get a PM role or product role without a tech knowledge, absolutely. But you need
Yeah.
to build it over the period of time. Otherwise, it's very
Yeah.
difficult to talk to your stakeholders, to excel at your workplace. It's difficult.
Right.
Also,
Yeah.
try and build a collaborative relationship with your developers, because I
Yeah.
have done
Yeah,
that and it has helped me a lot. Uh,
Yeah.
they will help you. They also know that if they know that you're not necessarily from a computer science background and don't understand certain stuff,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
if you take their ask for help, they are more than willing to help you and tell you कि
Yeah.
अच्छा this functions like this, ये ऐसे होता है वैसे होता है.
Yeah.
And you need to do your own due diligence before say writing a PRD. If you have a basic say like idea in your mind, then just Google and just see how what are the possible approaches that a developer
Yeah.
would probably need to take
Yeah.
to solve a certain problem. This will
Yeah.
also help you plan your sprints accordingly. And if a developer is saying this will take 5 day effort, but you have done your due diligence, then you can say no, 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 ये 3 दिन में भी हो
Yeah.
जाएगा. So
Yeah.
I think that also
yeah,
helps. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely,
definitely.
absolutely. I think for those who have this question in mind, I think one of the things which I would just say is like, if you just dig deeper to really understand why even this question comes up, right? Like, why do even people ask this question or have this question? It's because at the end of the day, this role of a product manager involves you to involves a lot of decision making.
Correct.
At every
Yeah,
point in time, you're making decisions about which product to build, which is the right problem to go after, how to build it. um, and if you don't have the necessary information with you, uh, then it's going to be harder for you to make those correct decisions.
Yeah.
right.
And a good product manager would thrive in these situations and make those correct product decisions. And because you're relying on a lot of that information, and kind of you're working on digital products, software products, technology products, um, if you miss out on that technology part of it completely, then you wouldn't have that information or part of that information which is required for you to
Correct.
make those
Yeah,
decisions, which affects the product building process.
Yeah.
And that's why kind of having that technology bent of mind, and
exactly.
a good foundational knowledge of how what your tech stack even is, and how is your product even built out, um, that really helps. It's like, if you're driving a car and if you don't know how to change the wheels in case you have a flat tire, then you will be all lost, right? So versus if you
Right.
know how to kind of change the wheels, then it becomes a lot easier. You can drive the car without any fear. I think that's the analogy which I would give. So it's not that you're expected to become a mechanic, right, and keep changing
Yeah,
tires at all points in time, but in case you have to make a decision when you're building out a product, this knowledge of the technology side of things, and not just about your product, but what's happening in the technology ecosystem, because things
Right.
are
Right.
changing at such a fast pace. If you're not actually keeping pace with what's changing, it becomes really, really hard for you to make those decisions. So I think that's where that I say it's the technology bent of mind is very, very essential, right? So
Right.
great. So I think let's keep moving forward. There are a few questions which are also coming in. I'll keep kind of asking those questions to you. This one question which came up, and since you both were talking about the data skills, one question which has come up is, what are the basic data tools product managers must learn?
Uh,
Okay.
so can I go first?
Anwesha, you wanna go? Yeah, sure,
Sure.
sure. Yeah.
So basically, when you say tools, I'm assuming that what are the like say mechanisms that you need to know how to analyze data. So basically,
I guess, yeah, I guess that's kind of what is meant by this question. Why don't
right.
you kind of take that interpretation and move forward? Yeah.
Right, right. So basically, in my day-to-day job, I use a lot of SQL
Hmm.
because we need to find out what, say, you have to do a root cause analysis and
Yeah.
you saw a certain dip in a certain metric. So you need to
Yeah.
know who all has been affected by that dip, and you need to figure out where the dip has happened. So for those
Yeah.
kind of things, you will have to write a lot of queries.
Right.
So your company would be having a query writing tool,
Yeah.
and you might have to use that massively. And
Yep.
apart from that, obviously a lot of Excel, because I think that's one of the best and easiest
Yeah.
tools out there. And I think we've
Yeah.
been using that for so long that we're very accustomed to it
Yeah.
also.
Yeah.
And of course, certain data visualization tools like maybe
Yeah.
Tableau or
Yeah.
Metabase or something like that,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it gives you a good sense of numbers moving, like
Hmm.
graphs or say charts, pie
Yeah.
charts, and all.
Yeah.
So those things, I think, those basic things are fine. Nothing too
Okay.
complicated. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Rohit, anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, I use two tools, SQL and Excel, and
Yeah.
I feel that having good Excel skills is the most underrated thing that anyone can have, at least in
Yeah.
this era.
Right.
Be it
Yeah.
any
Right.
field, not just PM, but
Yeah.
like knowing to analyze data on Excel is the most underrated skill. So like,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that people might feel that they know Excel, but when they actually get data, they'll find that they're not as good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
because I had that notion that I was great at Excel, but then I got into the job and I found that I had know nothing about
Yeah.
Excel. So
Yeah.
so I feel that Excel is the obviously one of the most important. And apart from that,
Yeah.
SQL, I guess I won't say that you need to learn that before you get into a PM role, but once you get in, I
Yeah.
think you will learn it by working together
Right.
with data, like the data and
Right.
the BI team. Yeah,
Right. Yeah. I think my experience has been similar as well. The way I classify it is first starting off by really understanding how is the data even structured in your
Yeah.
context, in your organization,
right,
and having a very good understanding of how the data is stored, where is it stored, can you even retrieve that data, for how long will the data be stored. Having that understanding really, really helps. Once you know that, then it's all about you having the capability to work with that data, be that writing those queries to pull that data, or really trying to figure out for whatever is your need to suffice that, can you actually pull the necessary data, and then finally you're analyzing the data, trying to fish for patterns which will give you certain insights, and that's where the data visualization tools that are there can really come in handy. But at the core of it, it's not about the tools, because the tools can always be
Yeah.
learned,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
And tools vary from company to company. No two companies would
Right.
use the same set of tools. It's more about having that mindset to be very comfortable with data, right? um,
exactly,
and if you just follow that approach, like starting off with first understanding how the data is stored, and then kind of moving to, can I actually work with this data, and then can I analyze this data further, I think that mindset is what is required in a product
right.
manager's versus the
Yeah.
tools, right?
Very
Great.
true.
So thanks so much for answering this question. So let's again switch gears now. Let's talk about how you prepared to crack the product role that you did. Um, Obviously, it's kind of hard breaking into a product role, but you guys did it. So what really worked for you guys? How did you go about doing it? Talk us through that journey. Uh, what were the challenges that you faced as well? Anvesha, will start off with you this time.
Sure. So I think the biggest challenge was since, uh, say, let's take an example of a software engineer, right? There is
Right,
a very set pattern already established in the industry of how
right,
you can crack a software engineer role.
right.
Unfortunately or fortunately, don't know,
Yeah,
that has still not yet been optimized for product managers.
right.
Um so every company conducts its interviews in very different manners,
Yeah,
has a resume shortlisting. Some
yeah,
don't have resume shortlisting.
yeah,
Then some companies ask you to prepare a deck. Then
yeah,
others ask you to give an exam. So it's all over the place.
yeah.
So hence, being a generalist helps
Mm,
because you can do a lot of things. So you can make decks. You can also prepare a little bit of aptitude on the side.
right.
So I think for me the biggest challenge was the crunch of time because I
Yeah.
did not have the time to do all of that.
Mm,
Even in placements, there were multiple companies coming in with different kind of requirements from their
mm,
side for product roles,
mm,
and everything was happening simultaneously.
mm.
And even if you apply off campus, you might experience a similar thing
Right, right.
because no company's hiring process would be same.
Yeah,
Say like for a software engineer role.
yeah,
Having said that, I think have an open mind
yeah,
and be open to rejections also because
yeah,
it's difficult to crack product roles, especially
yeah,
after undergrad.
yeah,
Uh, so even if you crack the first level in
yeah,
interviews, they might cross question you a lot, but
yeah,
be open minded and take all of the learnings together, and at some point you will be very confident in your
yeah.
skills and you will crack the role that you want.
Right. Okay, okay. Rohit?
Yeah, I think similar to what Anvesha said, even during my placement time and when NextLeap process was going on, the time
Yeah,
crunch was huge. So
yeah,
like we had like companies coming in like a day before the placements telling that they wanted like a 10-page PRD. So
yeah,
like I mean I understand that they want to get to candidates, but like
yeah,
they need to think of the candidates as well.
yeah,
So that is obviously one of the challenges that was there. Apart
yeah,
from that, my process was I think a lot of like peer to peer interviews really helped me.
yeah,
So like practicing interviews with my friends
yeah,
who are also similarly preparing for product roles, their
yeah.
feedback was much more better than I would have had with someone, let's say, who is a senior, or maybe someone
Mm,
who's like maybe even if he's in a product role, but he wouldn't know me as much as my friends do. So
right.
my
Right.
friends actually knew, let's say they have taken my 5 interviews, they know exactly
Yeah,
where I'm going wrong. And it's important to have honest friends, of course, but
right.
I
Yes.
believe that if you have that peer group with you, that
Yeah,
that is second to none.
yeah,
And apart from that, like that solving different types of cases is important, like
yeah,
trying to like make sure that you are having a spread of cases. It's
yeah,
not just that you do only RCA or
Mm.
only let's say a product market type
yeah,
of case. Having all different types of doing all different types of cases and not exhausting cases,
yeah,
because what I faced was there was a crunch of resources in terms of the number of cases available on the internet,
yeah,
because there are only a finite number of sources that you can like go to, and there is an actually a solution present.
yeah,
Because you'll see that a lot of blogs are there are a lot of cases but no solutions to that.
right.
But
Mm.
so that because of that you need to optimize and make sure that you're only using those cases when you're actually doing the final, the actual simulation of the interview, not just reading it for time pass.
Right.
Because I initially did that, I had like 100 cases, so 30% of them I just read them to understand
Mm.
how the interview works. That
Yeah,
meant that I had 30% less resources to like actually prepare for the interview. So
right.
that is one of the challenges that I faced. I feel that maybe I think NextLeap is doing a lot to like increase the resources for the candidates, so that would
Yeah,
actually help a lot of people.
got it.
And yeah, I think these preparing for interviews is a lot of like how much time you put in. It's just about
Yeah,
that,
yeah,
and working on feedback, and like if you have a bad interview, what you went wrong, go back to the drawing board, like work on that. So getting feedback and working on feedback is as important as like giving interviews.
right.
So I think that will really help.
Yeah. Okay. No, I think very valid points. I think the things that you guys mentioned, one, the peer support, which helps you with the mock interviews. I think
Yeah.
more and more practice always is helpful there. And I've seen so many people talk about the same thing, that being surrounded by a group of peers who can really help you identify
Right.
your blind spots is so very crucial for in your preparations. I think that's great. The time crunch, yes, I can understand, especially with the with so many different kinds of application processes that exist
Right.
across different companies. Unfortunately, that is the state of affairs today, and it is also because partly because of the nature of the role.
Yeah.
Unlike say software engineering, where it's quite black and white, right? Either your code is going to
Right.
run, it's not going to run. In product, that's not the case.
Mm.
So because of the nature of the role, I think the application process also is quite diverse there. One of the questions which Ravi Raj sort of asks, and since you guys mentioned that, uh, does doing a course really help in career transition? You guys have both done the product manager fellowship at NextLeap. Did it even help?
Uh, I
Okay,
think
so yeah,
surely.
no, sure,
Oh,
sure, sure,
cool. Uh, so I think a course, if you're a beginner in something, like say you're starting off in product because you have heard a lot about it and you want to
Yeah,
know what is it about. So I
yeah,
think a course definitely helps you,
yeah.
because it gives you a comprehensive picture of
Right.
what you should be expecting out of the
Yeah.
role or out of say the interviews that you might be facing.
Right.
Apart from that, if you are part of certain boot camp which provides
Yeah.
that course or certain
Yeah.
kind of community, it also gives you a great learning circle. You will
Right.
get to meet like-minded people
Yeah.
who probably will be friends for life. You will
Yeah.
interact with them, and as
Yeah.
as Rohit mentioned a bit earlier, you can have mock interviews with them.
Yeah.
So this definitely helps. I feel
Yeah.
having a course is one of the easiest ways to prepare for an
Yeah.
interview.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Rohit.
So basically, having a course gives structure to your preparation. That's the like the underlying fact.
Yeah.
Because what happens is that, especially in product, there is at least before NextLeap, there was no source where you could actually learn all the things in a structured manner.
Right.
So like let's say you want to do an RCA and you want to understand how RCA works, how to
Yeah.
like frame problem statements. All those things you have to learn separately in different platforms.
Yeah.
So like taking any course would actually help to have all those things in a simple
Yeah.
like a structured manner,
Yeah.
and that is the only reason why one should do a course. If you
Yeah.
think that you're doing a course for the knowledge, I probably wouldn't recommend it, because
Yeah.
the knowledge is available everywhere. Like if you
Yeah.
want to understand one specific concept, probably you'll get a better YouTube video or a better
Yeah.
you can talk to a friend who's working in product.
Yeah.
But doing a course gives structure, and I think that is more important when you
Yeah.
are like at least starting out as a beginner.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is definitely what I would recommend.
Yeah. Yeah. Having kind of seen like now close to 2,000 fellows who've gone through kind of the fellowships here, right? The different fellowships that we have. I think one thing which came out again and again was the fact that people really loved the structured learning pathway which
Right.
the
Yeah.
fellowship provided here, because and when we asked them why is that like really adding value, what we heard was that you know what, there's so much of content available, right? You get lost where to start, which
Exactly.
one to look at.
Exactly.
You don't know the credibility of the content, and I think that's a very big pain point. There's abundant content, right, but there's no structure to that. So that's one. The second thing which we heard was and since you guys have gone through that process, the second thing which we heard was the fact that a lot of people were really struggling even after they've picked up the skills, struggling to showcase those skills in front of a hiring manager,
Exactly.
right? Like, yes, I might have skills, right, but how do I even bring that out in front of the hiring manager? Because without that, I'm not going to get shortlisted. And which is where the
Right.
portfolio or the graduation projects, right, which you guys built out, I think that really helped.
Exactly.
And the third thing which you also highlighted, Anwesha, is that accountability that comes in once you're surrounded by
Yeah.
like-minded peers with whom you're practicing learning. That's a much needed boost because you know that you are not alone in this journey. There are other people also with you,
Yeah.
and
Right.
during the tough days, they will actually support you, and during their tough days, you will support them, right? Uh, and that camaraderie is really, really helpful. Is what kind of we've seen, right? So
Yeah.
so yeah, so I think that's where perhaps the course really comes in handy there. But can it be done without a course? Yes, it can be done, because the thing is, like,
Yeah.
there's so many people who have broken into product even without the course, but it requires a lot of motivation. Unless and until you're really really motivated, or unless and until you're really spending a lot of time, it becomes very very difficult. And this is where
Yeah,
a course like what we have designed at NextLeap really helps you go through the process quite a bit. All right, so
definitely.
let's kind of switch gears one more time and towards the final part of this session. Um, you've spent a few months already in a product role. There's so many people who are looking to get into product, right? If there's one advice, or like the top three things that you would advise them, right? What would that be for anyone who is trying to break into product?
Right. So I think the first and foremost thing, in my opinion, is that have the right kind of motivation
Hmm.
to get into product. Like right now, since product management roles are
Hmm.
in a like are in a increasing like if they are seeing a growth over the past, I
Yeah.
guess, 1 or 2 years.
Yeah.
So don't go for it just for the sake of it.
Hmm.
Have your expectations, like know what you're getting yourself into
Right.
and have your expectations accordingly.
Yeah.
Because if you go into it for the sake of it, it might happen you get disappointed, right?
Yeah.
So I think that is one big thing, like have
Right.
the right kind of motivations to enter
Yeah.
into pro.
Yeah.
The second thing is don't be afraid. I think since product management is such a role that has a lot of cross-functional, aspects to it,
Yeah.
and you're expected to know a lot of things, right?
Hmm.
Be it design, be it tech. I think a lot of times I used to get scared to ask questions because
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I'm supposed to know this. I can't
Yeah.
ask. So I
Yeah.
think don't, and it doesn't work that way. Don't
Right.
worry. Just be unafraid to ask questions,
Right.
even if it's very silly from your
Yeah.
perspective.
Yeah.
So I think these are the two things that you need to keep in mind, and
Hmm.
otherwise, I think you're good to go. All the best for all of those who are preparing to
Yeah.
crack roles. Yeah,
Absolutely. No, very, very nicely put down, Anvesha. Like, I think this is one role which you really need to enjoy. If you're not enjoying that role, then it does not
Yeah.
actually kind of make sense, because, and there's so many people who I talk to who just try to follow that herd mentality, because there's so many people who are getting into product. It's a
right,
glamorous role, right? People just feel like, okay, let me also get into that. But
right.
some people end up not enjoying it as well, because
Yeah,
of the fact that I think this role also is is challenging, and not everyone can actually make the cut here.
definitely.
And which is why perhaps it shows up in the hiring process, why it's really hard to break into product, because it's a challenging role. People always want folks who can really make the cut. So thanks for sharing that. Rohit, what about you? Any advice that you would want to pass on to people who are aspiring to get into product?
Okay, so couple of things. So basically, you should be okay with talking to a lot of people.
Hmm.
Like I know, I mean, I'm not saying that introverts don't talk to people, but
Right.
even if you're an introvert, you should be okay with talking to a lot of new people. At
Yeah.
least talking to a user, talking to your stakeholders. If you're not
Yeah.
comfortable with that, probably product is not the best place for you,
Right.
because you need to do that on a daily basis. And the other is basically to keep calm, have a good temperament, because like when things go wrong, people will fall back on you, and you
Yeah.
need to be the one who like douses the fire and make sure at least make people be okay with the be okay कि ज़्यादा कुछ हुआ नहीं
Hmm.
है, we can manage it. So
Hmm.
like managing expectations and also like being having a calm temperament is very important like in product.
Hmm.
So I think these are the two things, and apart from that, like you should enjoy the journey while you are like preparing for interviews or like preparing the text, because at least when I was like part of the process, I actually genuinely enjoyed like breaking down like products and actually building the text,
Right.
and then actually like looking forward to the interview and then talking to the interviewer about what I thought was the feature and how he felt that
Hmm.
I worked on that. So that interaction has to be actually enjoyable to you.
Yes.
If you feel that you take that as a pressure and then you like you build the PPT like font size ऊपर नीचे करो डर के मारे कि
Yeah.
अच्छा लगेगा नहीं लगेगा, that
Yeah.
that is probably not the best way
Yeah.
to go by it. So enjoy the whole process of building the
Yeah.
portfolio. If you don't get into one company, you can definitely use that deck in the next company. So like no
Right.
effort goes waste. And
Yeah.
like building your portfolio, it will definitely get you a product job one day or the another. So
Right.
I think that not giving up is also an important thing in the process. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think being persistent throughout this process is very, very
Yeah.
key, and you will have to face rejections along the way. And I don't think I've come across anyone who has not faced rejections. I think everyone has faced rejection because it makes you a lot stronger. The first time you are interviewing for a product role, obviously there will be nerves, but you don't know what to expect, especially given that there are
Right.
so many different types of interviews across different companies. So you will go through rejections. It's a part of the process, but being at it, if you really want to break into a product, I think you have to be persistent, and that is where kind of the rubber hits the road, right? So so thanks for sharing that as well. It brings me back to how I broke into product, and what Rohit mentioned, like enjoying that process is so very key. I still remember when I was interviewing for TripAdvisor, and that was my first formal kind of product management role back in 2012. And back then, obviously, there was no resources that I could
Yeah.
get online. I had literally heard about the role of a product manager just a few weeks before that. And but just like you guys, it really excited me because I felt like, okay, there are bits and pieces of pretty much all the things that I really like. So let me give it a shot. And they sent me an exercise to do, and it was pretty similar to what you would have seen in some companies, like choose a product that you really use a lot and find out how you'd improve the product. It was as simple as that. And I worked on IMDb, right? And that
Okay.
that was kind of the product that I'd chosen, and I really enjoyed the process so much that I went through the entire process within 24 hours, right? And I sent it across to them the next day, and the reply that I got was like, "We had given you 7 days, and sent it back in one day, but regardless, we'll go through the material that you've sent and get back to you." And I thought for a moment, like, "Oh shoot, I have made a huge mistake. Maybe they expected a lot more. That's why they gave me 7 days, and
Yeah.
here I am, like a fool, completing it in 24 hours." 15 minutes later, right, I got a reply saying that we would love to interview you, right?
Yeah.
So, and they really loved the deck, and all my interviews were focused on that, and yeah, I think I broke into product. So, I think enjoying that process is so very critical, because if you know that, yeah, you really like doing these things, uh,
Yeah.
then you know that you're going to be enjoying this role. Otherwise,
Right.
quite right. So so thanks so much for sharing that. We're almost out of time. Let me just quickly see if there are any questions. There's one question which is coming out, which is what do APMs do during weekends? Do you even get weekends? So whatever you guys have been talking about, it's like and all. Like after office, what is it that you guys?
Good
I
question,
mean,
first of all. Uh, no, actually, like after on weekdays also, like I have a really good relationship and camaraderie with my team.
Hmm.
So we go out sometimes to party, drink.
Yeah.
So it's all chill, it's all fun and games.
Hmm.
And on some weekends, you might have to work, especially if you're working in a fast-paced startup, which
Right.
expects you to be at the top of your game all the time.
Yeah.
Otherwise, weekends are chill. I tend to stay very, very much away from my laptop. I don't
Yeah.
want to hear my Slack pinging,
Right.
that noise.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, having said that, if you, as Arinda mentioned a little while ago, you have to enjoy the process, right?
Yeah.
And if you're enjoying the process, even work doesn't feel like a burden. Having said that, I think it's important to have work-life balance. Definitely, like you
Yeah.
need to know when to shut off your laptop and get out of the office as well.
Right.
So yeah, I
Okay.
think that's
Rohit,
my
what
take.
about you? What do you do in your free time?
I am pretty sure one of my colleagues had that question because he told that he's gonna ask that. So, so basically, I mean, I have like a sort of a funny anecdote. So basically, what happened was one of our features, it didn't work, so we had to roll it back.
Right.
So, and the developer said that we are gonna do like we're gonna release that in the next sprint, that is after 2 weeks.
Hmm.
And the thing that we did was we had that thing was sort of about to be automated but couldn't be automated, so we had to do it
Yeah.
manually. So that meant that all across India, people would like raise requests on the tech support channel, tagging me कि इसको
Hmm.
resolve कर दो.
Yeah.
So after for 2 weeks, all I had to do was I used to open the tech support, see like 10, 15 threads tagging me. I used to
Hmm.
open each of them, then resolve them, and then I used to shut off my laptop. That happened for like for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Then the funny thing is that after this got resolved, people were tagging me in different issues, thinking that I am tech support. So,
Right.
so people thought that I was a part of the tech support team. They used to tag
Yeah.
me कि मेरा app नहीं खुल रहा है, ये नहीं हो रहा है.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean that is the truth of becoming a PM. That if your
Yeah.
features fails, it's upon you to act as anything. It can be tech support or a developer or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that was I did it on a couple of weekends, but yeah, otherwise I
Yeah.
like Annwesha said, I like go to parties with my colleagues and like we have a really good
Yeah.
relationship. So yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, even
Absolutely.
I have
Yeah.
a funny anecdote to share.
Yes,
So
please.
once, for a customer, like we were doing a little bit of research on our end, and I did a customer calling about a certain feature that we had recently shipped, and it was not getting a
Mm-hmm.
lot of traction. So we were doing customer calling to understand what's the issue, why
Mm.
people aren't finding it useful, etc. And a couple of days later, I get a call from an unknown number, and
Right.
that person is like, "Ma'am, mera." So I work in Navi, as you might know, it's a
Yeah.
financial service company.
Yeah.
So that person is calling me, and he's like, "Ma'am, mera loan approve नहीं हो रहा." एंड आई एम लाइक,
Mm.
सॉरी, आप कौन है? मैम आपने 7 दिन पहले मुझे कॉल करा था अबाउट आप रिसर्च रिसर्च कर रहे थे,
Right.
तो नाउ माय लोन इज नॉट गेटिंग अप्रूव, प्लीज हेल्प कर
Yeah.
दीजिए. एंड आई वाज ऑन अ
Right.
कॉल विथ हिम फॉर 1 hour
Yeah.
ट्राइंग टू
Wow.
अंडरस्टैंड कि एग्जैक्टली क्या
Yeah.
हो रहा था, व्हाई हिज
Yeah.
एप्लीकेशन वाज गेटिंग रिजेक्टेड.
Right.
So yeah, so this
Yeah.
happens.
Okay. No, absolutely. I think one thing which I've realized is if you're in a product role, uh, there'll be so many stories that will happen during your entire career that which will come with its own set of learnings, which will make the mood lighter many a times,
Yeah,
and stories that you would want to share with so many different people. So that's another wonderful aspect of this role as well. So yeah, so I think thank you so much to both of you, Anwesha and Rohit, for chatting with us and sharing with us your journey and giving the advice that you did to the product aspirants out there. For those of you who are looking to break into product, at NextLeap we do have a product manager fellowship which both of kind of them, Rohit and Anvisha, went through, and now they are in product teams. And we've had so many such success stories coming out of the Next Leap fellowship programs. So if you're looking for it, do check us out on Next Leap for the Product Manager Fellowship. Once again, thank you to both of you. Thank you, everyone, for joining in. I hope you found this session useful in your preparation to break into your first product role. And we'll keep having these LinkedIn Live series going forward as well to help you out. Thank you once again and have a good night. We'll see you for the next one. Bye bye.